still learning. The community happens at what I want to say 3 different levels of 3 different areas. Most of us are aware that we're, as a part of being, is we are a congregational member. And now it is true, we have guests and we would encourage all kinds of guests to come, but there comes a point at which you say, I'm a member, I'm connected. Now I recognize that's at odds with our current society. Our current society doesn't want any more responsibilities, any more connections, and that's actually kind of a little bit of a hard selling point for the world as it is out there right now. And yet, we want to say that connection is absolutely vital. One of the basic instincts of a human being is to be together. And so we become a member at baptism, but we live it out in relationship with one another. Here's where I find the biggest struggle in the church, and want to move people beyond where they're just recognized as a single member in the congregation, is I want to move everybody into being a member of a small group. A small group of 5. The statistics show that within 6 to 8 months of joining a church, if you have not become a part of some small group, it could be the choir, it could be a Bible study, it could be a Sunday school, odds are very high that you will cease to become a member within a year. That it's in the small group that we find that connection, but here's where the transformation happens. If I don't know what happens in this Sunday school room, but because you've stuck together so long, those of you who are here and a part of it, at some point you must be challenging one another, inviting one another, loving one another, supporting one another, putting up with the foibles of, but then maybe saying, maybe that foible, maybe unless that's happening, we're not really growing in Christ. That becomes actually the significant place where growth happens. But the third thing the church is we are a part of a universal church. I almost used the word Catholic, but I realize that's a red flag for so many people. But until we begin to realize it's not just this church congregation, it's not just this denomination, but we're a part of a universal church that is actually global. Once we begin to have that kind of understanding, we also begin to have some compassion for folks who are different from us. Because what happens in any individual congregation, we humans just tend to be homogeneous. And it's only when you move beyond being homogeneous that you really actually start to be the church. So, but community does not happen unless you're paying attention to the angles. Authenticity. Real self, not the masked self. Transparency. Allowing yourself to be, not just to be real, but to allow yourself to be who you really are. To be able to see your strengths, your weaknesses, your doubts. I heard a pastor's daughter just say at the retreat, she struggled so much with doubt, doubting whether God existed, doubting whether God was good. She had been brutalized by the church. Her mother was I think both her parents were pastors. And they ended up getting a divorce. And what was so hard for her was the parents were required by the bishop to send out a letter announcing it to everyone. And so, the first that she became aware that everybody knew it was when that letter arrived her, and she was shocked, but she was even more shocked by how her church community talked about her parents' marriage. And she said they didn't know. They weren't a part of it. They didn't see what was going on. But that then had a tremendous impact upon her experience of God. And so she said she described herself as spiritual but not religious. She doesn't want anything to do with these people who were so brutal towards her parents. And a significant experience happened when she was with a group of pastors, and I don't remember what the setting was, but the pastor talked about the doubts that he had. And she literally began to cry because, she had always heard, you either have faith or you have doubts. You either believe or you don't. And the reality is we all struggle. But can we make those struggles transparent? And finally, this may be most important, we need to be vulnerable. Love is being vulnerable. Love is risk being rejected and misunderstood, left and abandoned. And that's true at every level. Parents, spouses, friends. But we in the church really need to make sure we're focusing upon these. And these are not easy, and they're counterculture, but this is what will make us be community.